Hey everyone, I may be in an ancient city, but that's not the cool part. Oh yeah. So it appears that Spectator mode has finally made an apparition starting in the latest preview, which would be 1.19.0.21. And in its current implementation, the Spectator mode in Minecraft Bedrock Edition is far superior to what it used to look like. For reference, the Spectator mode in Minecraft Bedrock Edition used to look like this. It was absolutely horrendous, obviously it wasn't done yet, and it isn't done now either, but in its current implementation it is far superior. And not only does it actually work, unlike the last time we had anything close to this, but it's also very impressive since we can see so much thanks to the superior render distance of the Minecraft Bedrock Edition. Of course, the fact that it looks so much better than what it did last time is already a great sign, but we are still ways off from having it fully implemented, and I will go over the various issues and problems that are still present in this video. First of all, if you're curious and want to enter this sort of spectator mode, then you just need to do the following: /gamemode 6. And voila, you are in the spectator mode. But in order to properly use it, you need to make sure that you are in game mode 1 before, so that would be creative mode, and you are flying. Otherwise you will have issues and won't be able to navigate properly. So once you're flying and in creative mode, just type in game mode 6 and you will enter the spectator mode. Something interesting I noticed right away is that the whole world re-renders when you enter the spectator mode. So if you go from game mode 1 to game mode 6, as you can see it flashes and all the chunks re-render. I assume this is because the spectator mode uses a different rendering solution so that you can properly see all the caves underground, because when you are in the game mode creative, of course you would have this normally so you can't see anything. And in any other game mode than spectator mode, you wouldn't be able to be inside of blocks anyway, and you wouldn't be able to see caves, so that saves a lot of performance, and that is why I assume that the creative mode and the spectator mode have these different rendering modes. For the more technical people, this is called occlusion culling, by the way, and it saves performance by simply not rendering anything that isn't visible on your actual screen. You can already notice that when I am underground, that my frame rate starts to tank. My PC is using a Ryzen 5 5600X and a GTX 1070, and as you can see my frame rate does drop to about 60 with render distance of 32 chunks. So I assume that there still is some optimization that needs to be done before this can be shipped to a full release, since this would likely be quite laggy for mobile devices, but the implementation is pretty impressive as it is, I have to say. As I mentioned previously, the spectator mode still has some slight problems. For example, if you switch from survival mode, in which you obviously cannot fly, directly to spectator mode, which is game mode 6, then you won't actually be able to move vertically for some reason. And there still is the strange behavior in the spectator mode where you can enter the flying state or the non-flying state like in creative mode, but you don't fall in either, and depending on which you are in, you will be able to navigate vertically or not. It's quite confusing to show when you're not actually the one controlling it, and I don't really have a way to show it to you through a video, so if you're curious, then I suggest you download the preview on your device, if you're able to, and try it out yourself. Anyhow, as I mentioned, to be able to get the vertical movement, you need to be in the creative mode and you need to be in the flying state. Only then you can enter the spectator mode, which is game mode 6 right now, and you will be able to navigate vertically. If you double jump while in spectator mode, then you will not be able to navigate vertically. But you can change that, of course, by double jumping again, then you're able to navigate vertically once again. One thing you will also notice is that the paper doll on the top left gets forcefully disabled once you enter the spectator mode. It makes sense because you shouldn't be able to see the player while in spectator mode. However, you can still see the player in third person back and third person front, although they do sometimes just disappear randomly. When you clip through blocks while in the third person back or third person front, then the camera will be right up against your face, depending on the back side or front side. And of course, that is also unintended behavior. If you know the spectator mode in the Java edition, the puppet is simply completely transparent except for the head, which is slightly visible. At least that's how I remember it. And third person back and third person front are completely normal and don't glitch you out like it does here. There also is the issue that you are still existing in the world. If you know the spectator mode in the Java edition, you don't really exist there. Mob spawning does not occur as far as I'm aware, and various things just happen as if you are not there at all. That's why it's called spectator, because you aren't really there, interacting. And so mobs will still spawn while you are in the spectator mode. However, I'm not quite sure how the spawning works, if it's still the same with the spawning and despawning zones, because earlier I saw some mobs despawn while they were fairly close to me, but I'm not quite sure if I was just imagining it or if that meant that the R24 despawn immunity does not exist. Anyhow, one part of the spectator mode that already seems to be implemented is that entities don't notice you. This used to be not the case, and entities were able to see you in the spectator mode. Although back then the so-called spectator modes were called creative viewer and survival viewer respectively. Likewise, when you travel through certain blocks like water, there still is a sound. This is a water cave, although it doesn't appear like one. I know it's kind of weird. So yeah, that is also something that needs to be fixed. But in my experience, flowing water at least will not be able to affect you. So if I stand in this flowing water, the water will not push you. So that is one part that properly works. Some other parts where the world still acknowledges your existence despite the spectator mode having the player be non-existent in theory is the skulk sensors, for example. So if I go near here, then the skulk sensors will detect my footsteps despite me literally floating and being able to go through blocks and not making a single noise. So that is also one issue. However, other things like pressure plates don't seem to be activating when I'm passing through them or trying to step on them, because previously flying through them or flying on top of them used to trigger them. There's also some more obvious things that I need to mention. When you are in spectator mode, obviously you can't break things or interact with things, so I'm trying to click right now. Maybe you can hear it if I put my mouse up against the mic. And I am unable to break this block. Likewise, if I go near a chest and I right click, I am unable to open the chest. If I open my inventory, I have the creative menu layout, but I cannot actually get any items from the creative menu. However, my inventory is still there in this form. If you go back into the creative mode and get some items into your inventory and then go into the spectator mode, you will still have them, and you can, for example, still drop out your items and you can equip and unequip stuff, but you obviously cannot place it and you cannot pick up any items, so it's at least partially consistent so far. And in a very Bedrock edition fashion, you seem to still be able to use the more monetized features like the emotes in the spectator mode, which is quite strange, but I'm honestly not too surprised. For now, these are all the most apparent properties of the spectator mode implementation that I have noticed myself, but there are no doubt others that I may have missed, so let me know in the comments what else you have noticed about this spectator mode. In case you didn't figure it out for yourself already, this first apparition of the spectator mode in the Minecraft Bedrock edition also is an indication that the hardcore mode might be coming to the Bedrock edition at the same time as the release of the spectator mode. The reason for that is that the release of the hardcore mode has been held back because the hardcore mode requires the existence of the spectator mode, since you enter the spectator mode after you die on your hardcore world. And so I suppose that is what has been holding back the hardcore mode from appearing in Minecraft Bedrock Edition. Another reason why it may have taken so long for the spectator modes to first appear on the Bedrock Edition is because they were waiting to implement their new rendering engine, which is the Render Dragon rendering engine, on all platforms before beginning work on this new rendering mode. Since I am not a developer, I can't speak on how complicated that would have been to do without, doing their new Render Dragon thing or whatever, but seeing as they are starting to test Render Dragon on mobile devices as they have done in the previous few betas, or rather previews now, I assume that this is why we are seeing a partial implementation of the spectator mode now. So I think I'm gonna leave it at that. Before I go, I would like to thank Average Zing for sharing this discovery in the TechRock server. I definitely wouldn't have bothered to check in-game if Game Mode 6 actually did something, so I'm very much appreciative that they shared this discovery. Either way, that's about it. Let me know in the comments what you think about this first implementation of the Spectator mode. I think it's pretty cool, however, I think it should have happened about 3 years earlier, but I'd rather have it soon than not have it at all. So that's about it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you around. Bye!